Oh, are we on? Hi, everyone. Welcome. Loving Technology. Marnie Batista, and I'm super excited to chat to you today. If you're successful, if you feel like um, you're a person who has gone to therapy, you've read the books, you on paper have like everything, but there is this part of you that feels stuck and it's hard to figure out what the hell to do about it. So, if you can hear me, let me know if you're having a coffee like me. Welcome. Good morning. Thank you for showing up early. If you're going to catch the replay, stay with me. And I'm just super excited that you're here. So, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is the problem. Um, and I think that there's a lot of talk about midlife, and there's a lot of talk about, taking the big leap and doing something different and living your best life. But I think what happens is that when our life is really great, um, good at least, like objectively, and we have this heaviness, there's this dissonance between like what is and what we want, and that heaviness that comes from not knowing really what to do about it. I've heard a lot of people even say that it feels, they feel ungrateful or they feel bad when there's a lot of chaos and suffering in the world, and they have a good life and they want something more. Um, that heaviness is, I had that heaviness in my life. Like you've been carrying something for so long. And I think this is really important because I want you to wake up to it, that you've been carrying something for so long that maybe you even forgot what it was like to not carry it. I wrote a post once about adaptation fatigue, that we get so used to adapting, rationalizing, justifying to ourselves and to others, um, about how we keep adapting to the circumstances and putting ourselves last, that that fatigue becomes like the status quo, and then it carries into our relationships or lack thereof, our health, weight gain, lack of energy, lack of motivation, all of those things. Um, so if you are that woman who maybe can't sleep, or you wake up at 3 a.m., um, just feeling that something is missing and you don't know what, you can't name it, you just know, and you have tried everything and you've been to the retreats and you've done the therapy and you've read the books, definitely read the books, and you've journaled and you meditated, you made the vision board, you did the ikigai, and you're still here, um, and you're still doing the thing that you're not sure that you want to do, still saying yes in your life to so many things when you mean no. If you feel like you're running your life from this invisible or actual written down checklist that someone else wrote for you, if you feel like all of the information around AI and it feels like life is just going so fast and you can't catch up, yet you're so tired, like that is who I'm talking to. That is who this is for today. If that is you, leave a heart, a comment, whatever platform you're on. I know for me, I want to know that I'm not alone when I'm in those moments. I was in that moment for so long and feeling so confused about what to do. I even told myself if I could just like grind it out for 2 more years, then I would be happy. Um, but 2 years of our life, especially when we're in a certain part of our life, is a lot, and we don't want to take it for granted. Um, I'm not going to tell you today how to be more grateful. I'm not going to tell you how to think positive. I'm not going to even talk to you about your morning routine. I want to talk to you today about what's actually happening so you can start diagnosing the real problem. Because you are not lazy, you're not unmotivated, you're not smart enough, you're not capable. You do have the ovaries to do this. You do have what it takes. Um, you just need to understand why, from a loving, compassionate place, you haven't been able to do what you really are dreaming about. Writing your next chapter, wherever you are in your life, is part of our evolution. And I think that what keeps so many of you stuck is that we think that if we want something to change, then that means something that we did in our past was wrong. That means we made it wrong. That means it was a waste. That's not true. So let's get started. Um, the first thing about very high functioning, successful women, and that is who is here, whether you're listening live or you're listening to a replay. You are excellent at adapting, figuring it out, pushing through, and making things work. It is, in so many ways, your superpower. Um, the other day, even I was having this moment where I was just kind of like overwhelmed, and I just had the thought, I was like, I'm still human, right? Like, why do I have to be the one to like always have to figure it out, right? Um, so, but the thing is that when you're really good at adapting, if you don't solve the real problem, you end up adapting so long that you end up living a life that looks like yours, but it doesn't feel like yours anymore. One of my clients said it so well. She said, I can tell the difference when I'm living life and life is living me. Um, what happens is when life is living us, and we're so afraid of making a mistake or letting people down, or even setting boundaries at work, right? Saying no, not being the person everyone depends on. And you keep going, you drift away from yourself. And that stuck feeling, it's not because you're broken, it's because you've been so successful at adaptation, at being competent, that the idea of pausing, reassessing, and telling the truth almost feels impossible. For me, the reason why I do this work is because it wasn't until I had a life threatening, life altering ski accident that made me really realize how life is short. And I do this work because I don't want that to happen to you. And I also don't want it to not happen to you. And you wake up one day and you feel like you missed out on doing what you really wanted to do. So let's talk about the 3 patterns that really are underneath this problem and what you can do about it. Because the biggest thing, first of all, is to understand, as I said, like if you can diagnose why you're this way, and we're not talking about tracing it back to your childhood. I'm talking about some pretty powerful things for women who are really smart and have done all the work. So this might be the thing you hadn't really thought about. Then you could actually start to unpack it, unwind it, and actually get on the path. Okay. So let's get started with that. 3 patterns. Number 1, and this is huge. And really what my superpower is when I work with people. The problem that you think you have that is making your life feel heavy probably isn't the real problem. This one is so sneaky. When I was writing my book, actually, I ended up taking out all these chapters, but I had all these case studies of different women that I'd worked with. My editor told me to take it out. They're like, we like your story. But there's these specific problems they thought they had that were the reason why things weren't working or why they felt stuck. And so for each one of you, you are probably thinking it's a circumstance problem, right? So maybe the job isn't right, or your boss isn't right, or the culture isn't right. Um, or you feel like it's the guy or the woman or the relationship that is causing the problem. Like it's that person. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's your schedule. Maybe it's your elderly parents and their situation, or your kids and their needs and demands. Maybe it's a house. Something in your external environment that is, you feel the reason why you're not feeling satiated, happy, fully expressed. So what happens is we take that information and we make some adjustments. And I have seen people who, make very big moves and do something. But what happens is after that initial rush of freedom, it comes back and there's the same heaviness, but different scenery. And that is because that old adage, wherever you go, there you are, is 100% true. And so when I teach this, I want to say that if you're going to write a new chapter or rebuild anything, we don't want to do it on the same foundation. And so what happens is we have to look at what is the deeper internal unconscious pattern. And patterns are not geography dependent. They absolutely travel. So the circumstances aren't the cause. They're just a symptom. They're showing you, they're like a reflection of what's happening inside. So the real issue is internal architecture. Let's talk about what those things are. The identity that you're operating from, the role that you have taken on to adapt from whatever happened to you at different points in your life, create behaviors. So whether you're the good girl, the perfectionist, the rebel, those fuse with different behaviors and they become our identity. And we have a whole set of beliefs and rules in our world that we have never questioned. And we have stories that go with each and every rule. It's like you're stuck in a novel that has a set of rules, and you are so immersed in that story that you don't know you're in the world that is of your creation, that it's not the truth. It's just your truth for right now. And so that's really the problem, right? Is that the circumstance, and this is really important. I want you to start seeing it's a cover up, it's a mask. And I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were talking about how it's really hard to get to the root problem because that hypervigilant part of our limbic brain, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn part, is actually not psychologically safe enough to open the next door to what's the true problem. So learning how to manage our psychological safety, not through awareness, but through actual like somatic in-body work, right, allows us to actually address what the real problem is. And that's not like a therapy diagnosis. This is how our human wiring works. And once you see it, you don't have to try harder at what's not working. And I think that is such a big manifestation of this number one pattern about the problem you think you have isn't really the problem. Whether it is dating or your career or a relationship you're in or your health, when we are trying harder at solving the problem the way that we have been and it's not working, it's not because you're bad or you're broken or you're weak or nothing works for you. It's that there's a part of your brain that hasn't allowed you yet to see what the real deeper issue is. And once that is happening, then we can actually look and see what is the real problem and then how do we actually handle that. This is really, really, really powerful work. I was just reflecting the other day. I wrote a whole piece that was in the LA Times about my own journey in this. And I thought for sure, like, my husband was the problem. We're still together and doing better than ever. But the thing is that it was a Marnie problem. It wasn't that problem. So this stuff is really sneaky. I think it's an advanced move for women who have done all the work and really want to stop trying harder at what's not working. If you have any questions, comments, be sure and let me know. I know it's early, so we don't have a ton of people joining us live. Okay, second pattern. So people will say, I'm afraid of change. I'm bad at making decisions. I mean, I said this to myself. I just don't like change. The thing is, what happens is that we don't know who we are without the familiar period. I've called this before a comfy, cozy condo, whether it's a house, a condo, an apartment, whatever it is, right? Like it is this pattern that makes people sort of like get quiet, right? Because when we say I'm afraid of change, it is scary, but I don't think that's what's actually happening. What's happening is this, that you've been responsible, capable, the one who makes sure that nothing slips through the cracks, the one who handles it, the one who everyone counts on for so long. It becomes your entire identity. Making other people happy, not being too assertive, afraid that people won't love/like you, approve of you, that you won't belong, like all these core identity things, right? And underneath all that exhaustion and resentment and the I'm so tired of being everyone who has to do everything, there's something that's even more uncomfortable. And this is why the identity piece is like the thing that opens the gates towards possibility, because we don't know who we are without that old identity. I remember like way back in my journey, and I was doing all this healing work, and I realized I had all these patterns and all these limiting beliefs. And I remember that moment of being like, okay, cool. So I can do the work and I can release and I can heal and I can do all that really amazing, great stuff. But what I realized was like, I have no skills, no models for who am I without, because this is all I know. Because here's the thing about being familiar with where we are, even though it's painful. It doesn't feel good necessarily to feel safe. I mean, I think that's mic drop, right? Like the familiar, even when it's exhausting, even when you're unhappy or you feel lost or sad or overworked or burned out, it has a predictability that your nervous system is attached to. And so making a change, letting go of that identity isn't just scary because of what might happen next. Hear that? It's not scary just because of what happens next. It's scary because you don't know who you are on the other side of it. And I just talked to a client yesterday, like her husband passed away a couple of years ago. She just turned in the keys to her office. She was a psychotherapist for like 30 years. Her son is in a relationship. Her best friend passed away. Like, right? Like this is the messy middle. It's scary when we don't know who we're going to be on the other side. And so this is not a fear of self, fear of change. I got so excited. I gave you the punchline. This is not a fear of change. This is a fear of ourself. And it requires a completely different conversation. And that's why the books didn't fix it. And that's why the retreat high wears off. You address behaviors, but they don't touch the identity underneath. And so, what I'm going to posit for you is you don't need more information. You need a different relationship with yourself. And when we don't have enough stability to trust ourselves, when we don't have enough understanding of how do we surrender our attachments and still have faith that we're going to be okay, how can we move? How can we do anything? So that different relationship with ourself, I mean, that's the true possibility seed as we launch here into spring. Okay. So the next pattern. Oh, this is a really big one, ladies and gents, if you're here. I think so many people are waiting to feel ready. We're waiting like, oh, I'll just know. Yes. And clarity doesn't come before the plan. Clarity comes from it. So when we talked about that first pattern and how do we start to create psychological safety, it's really important that we understand this is a lie that you're telling yourself. Write this down. It's a lie you're telling yourself. I just need to figure out what I want first, then I'll make a move. I just need to figure out what the right thing is, then I'll make a move. I wrote about this, but I think I'll never forget this moment. So I was at the ski mountain a month ago, back when we had snow, with a friend who's a therapist. And we were sitting there having lunch. We were sitting across from this couple in their 60s. And the woman is in corporate in New York, like super high powering, high fashion, very like successful. And the husband just sold his business, super successful also, but he created a whole succession plan. He had a whole plan for the last 3 or 4 years to shift his life at a certain age. And now he's in the part where he's like going on the trips to go skiing. And he's just kind of waiting for his wife to retire and have her plan. And the wife was saying, my plan is I have no plan. I know when I know. And my friend, who's a great therapist, was like, yeah, I totally get that. Sometimes, that's how I sort of therapize my clients. And I could see the guy just being like, and he's like, yeah, I've been waiting for that for 2 years. And she was like, okay. So that woman was figuring out like what she wants. She was waiting to feel ready. But the problem is you've been living from pressure and obligation. And what happens is, write this down, ladies, you lose the signal. There's a really famous book. Many of you have probably heard of it or even read it. The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks about how what happens with our neurological wiring is that when we're in that stress mode, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, for so long, over time, this is why burnout isn't just like, oh, I'm burned out. It actually starts to shift the way your neurobiology works, meaning that you start to miss signals. You become so numb that your body gets to a point where systems stop working. So you don't feel joy, you don't feel sad, you don't really start to feel. So when you've been living from pressure and obligation for so long, without an intervention, you could lose that signal and you can't hear what you want. You've overridden it so many times that it starts to go quiet. So you wait and maybe you journal and you think and you do another assessment. You take another workshop. You have another conversation with your friend where you talk about things that need to change, but nothing moves because you're trying to get clarity before you take action. But I believe we are way too smart. I only work with really smart people. The smarter you are, the more subtle all of this is. It's not how it works. Clarity is not a prerequisite. Clarity is a result. And the only way we get clear is by moving, by taking action, by making small decisions deliberately, and building a structure and a plan, an actual life design, a new chapter framework built from your actual values and your actual energy and your soul. And this is really important because it ties into the last thing we spoke about, your new identity. I promise you that limbic system, that hypervigilant brain of yours, the lizard brain, it's not building anything new if it doesn't know that it's safe, that you're not going to recreate the same monster. Right? So we have to do that identity piece so that we understand what our soul is. I call it your soul map. Once a client has their soul map, we can start to build that new thing. That framework is the foundation through which we build the new next chapter. We don't want to build from the version of you that's been performing for the last 20 years. You've outgrown it. Here's the danger of waiting. If you don't have a plan, you will unconsciously rebuild the same version of your life in that different outfit. Different companies, same dynamic, different relationships, same patterns, same feelings. So I'm going to challenge you and say, like, don't wait to feel ready. You need a process, you need a system, and you need to build it from the inside out. Who am I going to be to attract and bring in and create the life that is really a reflection of me? Not what do I want that will then make me be that person. That's the flawed. So, what happens when you address these three patterns? And I want to show you not in the like, here's what your amazing life will look like. I'm not going to tell you everything will be perfect and you'll wake up every morning feeling blissful. That's a lie. And that's also, honestly, now that I'm here talking about this with you, like, that's why I've never been the person who's like, let me create a digital product. Let me like give you a course and like see you later. Because this is iterative. The process of becoming the next version of yourself and writing that next chapter is in fact iterative. And it needs a sounding board and it needs feedback and it needs a container so that it can evolve. So what I'm going to tell you now is what actually changes in how you operate from a very practical standpoint. So the first thing that will shift is your decision making. Right now, and first of all, like, love all of you that are here. If this is resonating so far, if there's one of these patterns that you're like, oh gosh, I think I've been falling into this one, I'd love if you left a comment, a heart, let me know how you're doing. Okay, so the first thing that shifts is your decision making. And right now, most of us make decisions from pressure or urgency. And this, again, to me, like newsflash, like that's what happened to me, right? Like I broke my back in 7 places, my sacrum actually, which is the foundation of our body. And so my little aha was like, I broke the foundation of myself because I had to build the foundation of my life over again. So yeah, I'm not going to lie. That was the pressure. My husband was trying to put pressure on me, but my role is like, I'm a rebel. So I was like, no, 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 no. You push me. I don't even know if I want it. I'm just going to say no. That's a pattern I have. So when we're making decisions from pressure or urgency, should I stay? Should I go? Should I say yes? Should I say no? What should I do next? It's so binary. And we're chat GPTing it. We're clouding it. We're outsourcing it. Why? Because in our identity, we don't trust ourselves. So when we do it that way, and I've always even said this with dating or whatever it is, right? If we're trying to create the new relationship based on what was bad about the old relationship, we're creating from a place of fear and running from, right? And so we don't want to create something from what we didn't like from the expression of our deepest, darkest patterns. So what we want to do is we want to create from what's pulling us. So when we shift and break these patterns that I've talked about, we start making decisions from a completely different internal place. Not what do I have to do, but what do I actually want? And I had a client who was so locked into like, I have a business model. I have this business model. This is my business model. It's not working. I don't like this. This feels really heavy. I don't like doing all these sales. Like, this just doesn't feel like me. Should I get a job? Should I change this? What should I do? Overwhelm. And up until we started really doing this work, what do I need and what do I want and what do I love wasn't even on the radar. It wasn't until she had that soul map and she was like, wait, this is literally feels so good and easy to me. I don't even realize it's a skill because it's literally just me being me at like 100% and shifting everything. And then all of a sudden, like opportunities are coming. There's joy, there's fun. It's a new way of being in her business that's creating a new business based on making decisions from what do I want. Now, many of you skeptics will say, you don't get what you want. That's not the way the world works. It's crazy. The economy, the marketplace, AI, blah, blah. And I hear you. And it sounds like I'm oversimplifying. But when we start doing what do I want, at the very first thing is it starts to change your calendar, your relationships, your business, your energy. And the second thing that shifts is that heaviness. Right? I mean, that very specific exhaustion that comes from living against yourself, forcing rather than being empowered, from saying yes when you mean no, from showing up in ways that don't fit who you are anymore. That exhaustion is not a schedule problem. I mean, it is, right? Because you're creating a schedule that's not a reflection of the life that you want. But honestly, it's an alignment problem. And when we can adjust and realign, the exhaustion lifts in a way that no vacation ever could. And I cannot tell, this is like an instant result. And the third thing, the one that I love the most about, like what changes is that we stop waiting for permission. I wrote a note about this on Substack. I want to give you permission to want what you want, permission to say this isn't working anymore, permission to redesign your life without blowing up everything that you've built. I have clients who have opened a bar studio, even though they have no experience in that realm. Being brave enough to sell the family home, even though the adult children don't love it. Moving to a new community. One of my clients I worked with just posted on Facebook. She's officially a citizen of Portugal or a resident of Portugal. Left the corporate job. Now she's doing consulting 10 hours a week, $250K a year, lives in Lagos in her beautiful condo overlooking the ocean, right? Like that didn't come from waiting. That came from that plan, right? And it started with the first time we met, her show, and I swear to heaven, the first thing people usually do is they go, look at my calendar. I was talking to my daughter about this because she's 30 and she just got promoted in her role. And we were sitting on the couch. I went to go visit her and she was like, look at my calendar. And I was like, oh crap. And she goes, that is the most unhealthy flex. That's what the kids say. It's a flex, right? That is the most unhealthy flex. She's like, I need to get my shit together. I don't want to become that. Right. And that, that is our flex. Look, I'm so busy. I'm buried. I'm drowning. Okay. So I want to give you permission to say, okay, this isn't working anymore. I would love to write my next chapter. I don't want to blow up everything I've built. Give that gift to yourself. How do I do that? When we give ourselves permission to just acknowledge and dip a toe in, everything looks different from there. So next Saturday, we are actually going to start working on that. I'm going to do a live workshop, not theory, actual tools, actual process, not just information like this. And we're going to start looking deeply into your patterns and start making some shifts. And you've already started doing that by being here right now. So what I want to do is, number one, to invite you to that workshop. I'm doing it on a Saturday. I'm excited to do it on a Saturday because, number one, we're in mud season here in Colorado. And I would love to be able to take you when you have some spaciousness. You're not fried. You're not fitting it in, trying to cram it into your busy schedule. Um, and to do this. Also, if anyone has a comment or a question here, I'm happy to coach you live for a moment, answer any questions that you have specifically, or if you have some yeah buts, bring them my way. I love a good yeah but. So that's what I really would love for you to do, is to join me. Couple questions that I usually get just while we're I know that Imran is going to put up the link to the workshop on Saturday. And I know we've been here for a little bit of time, but one question is, I've done a lot of work on myself. I totally understand my patterns. Why am I still here? I've also heard, you know, maybe I'm just exhausted. Like I just retired from this, and I'm just tired, you know? And I think that the answer is this. It's really about the identity piece. I talk about this in terms of Costco in your shopping cart. And that is that, we're in the Costco of life. And the minute we come out, we start living life, like all these patterns come off the shelf at Costco, right? Like of who we are is what we have and how we perform and the roles that we take on and the car we drive and how our kids perform. It becomes so farther and further away from us. And before you know it, you've got like 2 shopping carts and a pallet of stuff that just was dumped in your shopping cart. And we're attached to that shopping cart, right? And so we have to just say, like, we have to Marie Kondo, so to speak, all of these pieces of our identity. I know for me, when my dad died, my mom died 10 years ago, and then my dad died in 2019. And then I was like, wait, what do I want to keep? And what do I want to let go? Like, who am I actually? And so the patterns are just those things that are in the shopping cart. And yes, we want to release them, but one of the biggest things that I do with people is this life mapping, whereby we get to reclaim the parts of us that got muted because of the decisions that were made for us, and the decisions we had to make to adapt and survive. And so in doing this work myself, like I reclaim like this parts of me that I forgot about. So I would say rest is the problem you think you have, but that's probably not the answer. Okay. Before I let you go, you came this morning. There was like 30 of you on Substack. Woo woo. Some of you on your lunch break. Maybe you were watching the replay because you stopped mid scroll. But there's no accidents about why our energies aligned today. There's a part of you that already knows, I think. So next Saturday, April 18th, I'm hosting this live workshop. It's called The Reset. It's 60 minutes. It's not a sales pitch with a bow on it. It's a real working section. My superpower is working with people closely in small groups. I do believe that AI is amazing, but I do believe that my gift is to be able to connect the dots and help you identify what's the pattern underneath the pattern. So my goal is that you walk away knowing exactly which of these patterns is running your life and what the next step is, not a vague insight, but actually a real step that you didn't know before. My job is to help identify the yet unconscious patterns that you have not yet discovered, because those are where the breakthrough comes from, and to create the safe space to allow your brain to do that. So if it's free, it's live, and I want it to be a real conversation. So if today landed for you, and if you recognize yourself in any of this, we want to send you a personal invitation. So drop reset in the comment. We'll send the link to you directly. or you can go to onyourtermsworkshop.com, onyourtermsworkshop.com, and grab your seat. If you give me a little reset, then what I'm going to send you a little, like, very, very short 1 minute um, little question form, so I can just know more about you before you come, so I can really do my deep work. I've been doing this for 17 years. I'm been doing this for a really long time. And my gift is to create real breakthroughs. And I've been doing it myself in my own life. So walking the talk and integrity is my number one value. So go to onyourtermsworkshop.com and grab your seat. It's April 18th, 10 a.m. Mountain, 12 Eastern, 1 week from Saturday. Don't wait until you're ready. Come to get ready. And if we don't have any other questions, I'll see you there.